startups, they die. Out of 100 startups, maybe 2-3% would succeed. Maybe. There are only very, very few who would be actual entrepreneurs. That is the reality. Money is a form of power, right? So people who have power would always want to maintain that power.
Brook, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Today we are here mainly to talk about entrepreneurship. What is happening in the area?
It's not amassing wealth, it's not amassing money for yourself. That is important. It's about solving the problems in the community.
They have this immense power in every aspect of life of this generation today. Do you think they deserve that privilege?
They earned it.
They earned it.
They earned it.
How?
They created something that everybody wants, everybody is using. I mean, with a very simple definition of startup. Very simple, is an experimental business. The actual entrepreneurs, the real ones, whether there is a startup proclamation or no proclamation, they would still make it. It would take them a lot of resources, yes, but still they would make it.
I want Ethiopians to have that confidence. Do we need to maintain the humility, or do we need to have the confidence and lose the humility? Which one do you think is beneficial? Brook, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Abraham. Thank you for inviting me.
All right. This is not one of those conversations that I'm having with my guests, people that I know from different walk of life. This is a conversation with a person I know for the last maybe more than 10 years, 13 or around 14 years or something like that. So we've had that chance to actually collaborate on different things. And today we're getting the opportunity again. So I'll be having a lot of things to talk about and to ask questions actually. But first of all, let us actually know who Brook is.
Thank you, Abraham. Yes, we go way back, as you said. But to introduce myself, let me introduce myself from my profession, right?
Right.
Yes, from my profession. So I, in terms of academic background, I studied law, I studied journalism and communication, and then impact entrepreneurship for my MBA, and sustainable leadership, as well as an advanced executive education as well. But then in terms of career, I have been on entrepreneurship and youth development for the past almost 2 decades now.
Wow.
Right? So so that has been what I've been doing. I've worked in a number of organizations with the same themes of entrepreneurship, youth, startups. And currently, I represent JUST-RATIFIED in Ethiopia, as well as I'm also the board chairperson or the president for Ethiopian Association of Startup Ecosystem. So that is, in a nutshell, who I am.
Amazing. So today we are here mainly to talk about entrepreneurship and the ecosystem in Ethiopia. And we'll be actually forced to talk about what is happening in this ecosystem, not only in Ethiopia, but in the region and this part of the continent Africa, including Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, all this area. So what is happening in the area? Tell me about your take on the developments that are happening, especially in Ethiopia, with regard to entrepreneurship.
Yes, that's a very timely point, so to speak, right? So in entrepreneurship, startup, I would say it is kind of the hot cake or the hot topic at the moment in terms of continent and even globally speaking. That is the startups and the most innovative technology-enabled businesses that are shaping the globe as we know it in the recent years. And the same is true for Ethiopia as well, and for the Eastern Africa region, the Southern Africa region. You go anywhere, from north to south, east, west. That is actually the current circumstance. And when you come to Ethiopia, there is a lot of change recently, and it has been on everybody's tanks at the moment. Everybody's talking about Ethiopia. Everybody's eyeing Ethiopia because of all the reforms that we are undertaking, the Startup Act, all the opening up to the international businesses and everything is making everyone really very much looking forward to coming to this market. So that is what is coming out and standing out when it comes to Ethiopia. And when you see the rest of the region, Rwanda, it has been the perfect launching pad for entrepreneurs, international organizations, what have you, to actually scale to the rest of Africa. It's very easy to register businesses there or your entities there. So everybody loves it as a launching pad. When you look at Kenya, there is a very well-developed skill and talent in Kenya, and also fluent in English as well. So that makes it also a very good hub for international organizations, including the giant technology organizations like Google and Facebook and others as well. So this is and a lot of at the same time, a lot of investment is also going to Kenya. There are questionable or debates regarding to whether those startups, gathering all those investments and everything, whether they are really truly Kenyans or other people disguising themselves as Kenyans running them. That is a debatable issue, but still, regardless of that, it is attracting really significant amount of investment in Kenya. You go to Nigeria, still a very interesting country which has a number of unicorns, some successful, others not very successful in recent as we see the recent developments in Nigeria. A couple of fintech companies who have been valued over $1 billion, or as we call them with startup lingo, unicorns, they have crashed and everything. So that has been also on the news. So this is the overall high level context in the continent. But Ethiopia, given its huge market size and the recent policy developments and everything, everybody is watching us really and getting ready to come here.
Absolutely. You've been touching upon different points that I want to come back to, and I want us to actually see into the details of all the points that you have made, or the areas that you touched upon. But one thing I just want you to make clear, and I have some kind of difficulty understanding the whole thing with regard to, in relation to the concept of entrepreneurship and the difference between innovation and entrepreneurship. Is it something that is actually intertwined or something related to one another? Give us, as someone who's actually an authority in that area, because you've been working on that aspect of the work for the past 20 years or something like that. Who is an entrepreneur?
That's a very, very good question, right? So entrepreneurship and innovation, those go hand in hand. Who is an entrepreneur? If we can go to the textbook definition of entrepreneurship, an entrepreneur or entrepreneurship is solving a current problem in your community, in your context, with a unique way of doing it, right? So that solution would be unique, and you do it in a form of business and you generate income from it. But it also needs to have some kind of innovative element. Otherwise, you would just be a business person, right? Rather than an entrepreneur. So entrepreneurs usually embark on something that is new, an uncharted territory, as we call it. So they go there, they are daring, they are usually the first ones to explore that avenue. It's not necessary, they take risk. That is the core definition of it. They take risk and make things happen. That is what they do. And when you go to innovation, the innovation is an element in entrepreneurship, right? It's not necessarily a standalone thing, but it's an element of entrepreneurship. So an innovation could be either on the product or in the business model. of the business that you are running or the solution that you are providing. So when you say it is an innovative way of doing things, it means it has not been done before, or it's at least slightly different than the way it has been done before. So your business model is different, or your product or service is different and unique. So that is how innovation comes into play. But it goes hand in hand. It's not necessarily two separate things. An entrepreneurship, it's a bigger, broader umbrella, and it has innovation in it. So that's how I understand it. If it doesn't have innovation, it's not going to be an entrepreneurship. You know, and there is also a third word that I would love to throw in here, right? Invention.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
You see, so there is invention as well. So the people who are in the laboratories, people who are, creating things, those are inventors. They would have IPs and everything, intellectual property rights and whatnot for their invention. But doesn't mean it's innovative. It doesn't mean it is entrepreneurial. It doesn't mean they are entrepreneurs. They innovate. They invent. They invent. And the business people would pick that innovation and change it into a business. That would make them entrepreneurs. They invest. They are willing to take risk. That innovation, that invention might not necessarily be fit to the market.
All right.
So for example, let's say you have invented something really futuristic.
All right.
And very expensive. But it solves problems.
Yeah.
But it's very expensive, and it's not, the society is not ready for it yet.
Yeah.
If you bring it out to the market, nobody will purchase it. Nobody will purchase it. If you use an innovative model to make it affordable through a business model, it could be through linking it, lease to own kind of model and everything. That would be business model innovation. And if you take that to the market, then you would become an entrepreneur. So from invention to innovation and then entrepreneurship. So you take it to that route. Otherwise, you would invent it and then it sits around. And I would like to kind of, usually what I ask people is, like in the media and everything, we see a number of new gadgets being invented. Even university students for graduation projects and everything, they invent something. At least they have to figure something out that's functional, and everything. And usually also a device or a gadget or a model that solves an already existing problem in the community. But why is that not being solved? Why is that not translating into a business? Why do not we see them, making a ton of money out of it? That is the question. They invented it, but because of lack of innovation and entrepreneurial spirit, they cannot take it to the next step. Who is an entrepreneur? Someone who has been in the market, someone who is willing to take risks, someone who is willing to invest, someone who has the connections and everything. Link them, match them. They would develop an innovative way of selling that product, making it market product fit, and then change everybody's lives, right? So that is the difference practically and theoretically.
All right. So it's like thinking about Steve Jobs and who's the other guy, Alan Watts, or something like that.
Yes.
So that guy is really about the product and thinking about how it can work and how it can actually appear functional. And the other guy, Steve Jobs, is about the public, the marketing aspect of it is there. So I really understand that point. But coming to the Ethiopian context, our context, we're really encouraging people, especially young people, to be entrepreneurs. There is a platform, that there is the circumstance for them to actually appear and provide what they have. But what I feel is, talking about our economy, we're not that developed. We're a developing country. We're trying really hard to be that country. So there is the element of courage, the element of daring to do something, taking a risk. Do you think it's worth it for a country or people like us to actually engage in that endeavor and try to get a result out of it, given our circumstances economically?
I would say that's the only way. It's not advisable. It's not an option. It is the only way. It is the only way. And the only reason any country is developed and is advanced at their economy globally is it's because they are contributing value to the rest of the world, where their export and import balance is really, really well, right? So they offer a much more to the rest of the world than they take from the rest of the world. That's how you gain a much more profit, and then develop and invest and grow and move up the ladder. And how can you do that if you are not going to create something that is valuable and competitive enough to the rest of the world and penetrate into others' market? How can you do that? Right? So why are we so proud of our coffee? Because it's competitive enough and is number one in the world. So in other endeavors as well, technologically, service provision, what have you, if you are not going to be, creating value, which is better than others or efficiently than others, make it either affordable, make it either quality-wise extremely competitive. If we are not going to do that, then we would always be, net receivers than net giver.
Exporters.
Yes, exporters. So the deficit would never be balanced. So that is how you would economically grow. And for that, the only way forward is entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship is through creating value, not necessarily creating riches or bringing money. I have to say this, I guess, right? So in our context, in our market context, one can be rich very, very quickly by collecting the sum of money from many, right? It could be you import something, you distribute it, you have X amount of margin on it, but what value have you added? If your importation is stopped, you're done. And there are people who are in the middle. They would add margins and then collect money. But what value have they added to that product? Limited. Imagine if we have much more, people who are producing and manufacturing and creating things and values, instead of artificial values or perception-based values, actually tangible values from something, then the gain that we'd have for those values would be much more higher, and we would be self-sufficient and self-dependent and then grow, right? Otherwise, it would be as if a child who's taking money from their parents and then act as they are rich. That's not the truth. Unless otherwise they start contributing something to the economy and then generate money from the economy by themselves, they're only dependent.
All right.
They're not rich or they're not wealthy. They're not creating value. They're not adding value. So entrepreneurship allows for that, because entrepreneurship is supposed to bring together invention, innovation, and then that market awareness, which we collectively call entrepreneurship.
Wonderful. I mean, I'm just curious asking about this thing. I just want to know how this can be functional in a way that people can think about it and engage, then get some kind of value out of it. It could be resources or getting a monetary value or anything like that. So what I'm thinking is, in a country like ours, I could imagine, like, for example, in developed worlds, for example, the US or Britain or any country in the West, it could be Canada, some guy trying to be entrepreneur and actually making strides is there, appreciated by the government, appreciated by the society, because at the end, if he fails, there is something for him to fall back on. The government can support him in terms of providing him food or giving him some kind of support. Or he can have a family to fall back on. But I'm talking about the mentality. I want my country, I want this beloved country of ours to have that luxury, to have that opportunity of creating people, bringing people, creating at least a platform for these people to thrive. But there is this mentality of individuals for whatever they have to invest it in something that they are sure there will be a return on investment. What do you think about the mentality for these guys with the spirit and the drive of entrepreneurship, but who are afraid that if they invest in something and if there is a failure element to it, the consequence of the result will not be only just failing, it will be failing deep. So that's the element of it that I want to talk about. I want to understand. How can we bring that culture of supporting or motivating people so that they can have the understanding that even if they fail, at the end, they will gain something and they can move on? How can we bring that mentality?
I think we have to start from the get-go, right? So from very, very early stage on. So we need to work on our entrepreneurial spirit development, starting from early stage, from children. We need to start exercising it from very early stage. So failing is okay. We need to believe that. We need to have it like as our next nature. It's okay, and it happens. And creating safe space for students and learners at high school level, mid school level, universities, so that they can exercise in a safe environment, that they can actually fail and then learn is very critical. And in other countries, there is multiple kind of programs that supports this. I have been privileged enough to be exposed to a program called Junior Achievement. So they are present in 100 plus countries all over the world. What they do is they have a program for high school students. They create mock companies. They would be trained, and they would have a company CEO, CFO, and what have you. They would be trained on how to do that and everything, and they would compete with one another by doing a small mock business. And at the end of the year, they would have a closeout report and everything. So there is rules to do that, but they exercise, working as a team, what business functions are, how you manage business, how you manage finance, what it takes to work with people, toward the common goal. All those things they learn in this kind of safe environment. So we need to include these kind of curriculums in our programs. We also have a program called, at Allen Gilgray Philanthropy, we have a program called Wavumbuzi. It's a Swahili word, which means an explorer, like you explore. So in this Wavumbuzi program, it's a digital program. It's delivered online, and students would sign up. It's gamified learning on entrepreneurial competencies. So they would be exposed to the very new advanced technologies that the world has, because the school curriculum cannot catch up with that, right? So how often would you revise a curriculum, right? So you cannot do it every 6 months. So for that reason, the school curriculum is usually a little bit lagging behind the advancements of technology. But what Wavumbuzi has is they would have, AI technology or machine learning and everything. We expose them to that because they are already exposed to these things, but we give them a little bit of exposure to that and give them the framework. How do you use AI to solve your community's problem? And we guide them through that. How do you develop a business model for this solution? How do you test it and everything? And it's gamified, and they compete with one another. And then finally, the winners would be awarded and all. So with this way, you expose them in a safe way. There is also an element to this program that they would be attached with an actual CEO, job shadowing kind of element to it. An actual CEO of a business, a finance person of a business. And how many of our high school students, let alone high school students, university students, actually have a clue of what an actual day of a CEO looks like. What does a board meeting look like? How do you take a minute? What does a CEO do? Everybody wants to be a CEO, but what does a CEO do? So you expose them to these kind of things. So they explore the real world at the same time, their own skills, and they learn to do things by themselves. And it's a safe space that they learn to fail. They also have contributed a little bit of money from their pockets,
Yeah.
So they fail, they gain, they test it and everything in a safe environment. And you guide them, you give them all these things. And as you said, in the curriculum as well, there is an element of responsible entrepreneurship. We cultivate them to be not just entrepreneurs, but responsible entrepreneurs. It's not amassing wealth, it's not amassing money for yourself. That is important. It's about solving the problems in the community, making everybody's days better. How is your product and service going to be affordable for the 80% of Ethiopians who are not in the urban settings, who are living in a destitute situation? How are you going to make it affordable for them? And instead of making money from the few rich, how do you make money from these 80 million people, but by having small amount of margin and changing their lives is the question. So when you do this step by step, there would be people who would be willing to change their way of doing business. And the way this results and comes to fruition is not necessarily by creating responsible entrepreneurs that would change the world. Not only because of that. There are only very, very few who would be actual entrepreneurs. That is the reality. 1-2%. But you'd be teaching everyone about entrepreneurship. What does that bring? People who go into the politics would have a very good understanding of entrepreneurship because they have experienced it somehow at high school level, university level.
Yeah.
So the policies that they develop, the language that they would speak, they would be, more conversant with the business people as well. It's not going to be, you talk something else, I understand something. It's not going to be like that. So there would be, the community would have an awareness. Parents who are not entrepreneurs, but who have experienced entrepreneurship somehow at high school would be much more willing to allow their children to explore entrepreneurship. So that's the kind of mindset that you create. And mass media, social media, the kind of podcasts like yourselves here, we use them. You communicate, you create awareness, and then you initiate interest, and then there would be action taken by others and everything. So this is how you create a momentum, and then the policies would change. Everything would really be great. That is starting from the grassroots. That is how I see it.
All right, absolutely. Amazing. There is one point though, like you see what is happening in the world and who's dominating every sphere of life. And now I understand every sphere of life is dominated by entrepreneurs, especially tech entrepreneurs. For example, we've been talking about AI, machine learning, and things of that nature. And this podcast was different people. And there is this hype. I call it a hype, and people say it's not a hype. Anything talking about AI or artificial intelligence is not a hype. So they say this. I say this is a hype. So we talk about all these things, but at the background, there are individuals who are influencing everything. Policies, laws everywhere, and they're influencing the actual politics of countries, different countries. For example, the likes of people like maybe Elon Musk, now he's engaged in AI, and Sam Altman or anyone from that area comes into the lawmaking sphere of life, and they try to push their ideas or their position into that. And they have this immense power in every aspect of life of this generation today. Do you think they deserve that privilege?
They earned it.
They earned it.
They earned it.
How?
They created something that everybody wants, everybody is using. ChatGPT.
All right.
How did that come about? It was a research project. They released it as a taste. and everybody said, I want a piece of that. It's not them like, let's, here you go, have it, use it. No. They released it for a test. Everybody went crazy about it. And they developed it from that, from the get-go. They made something very, very significant that everybody wanted and that everybody is willing to pay because it changed something for them to better. That's what they did. But in terms of whether it is a hype or is it really significant, if we are only going to talk about it, then yes, it's going to be a hype. If we are to take action about it, if we are going to do something about it, it's no longer going to be a hype. It would be practical. And there are a lot of technologies that we didn't get the chance to really use or experience because they keep on changing and everything. And that's also why when we talk about countries like Ethiopia, we need to leapfrog, right? So we need to really, really speed up the way that we move to our technology and use technology and catch up and then lead at some point. So the way you can do that is by actually picking on the new trends. There are mega trends, the things that we call mega trends, right? So in the world, every time, if we take these mega trends into context, these mega trends are, one is, for example, global warming. It's everybody knows about it. You hear about it and everything. So it's one of the mega trends. Global warming, ozone, climate, one or another way it's affecting our life. That's one of the mega trends. Population, another mega trend. The number of population is extremely growing, and another mega trend that follows it is urbanization.
Yeah,
the rate of urbanization is growing really, really highly. So all these things would change the way we live life, the way we experience life. So if you focus on these mega trends and try to see how is this going to affect, the number of urban cities that we have in Ethiopia and the number of urban residents in Ethiopia would double or triple in a number of years. You have that information. Then how do you process that is the question. What does that mean? How do people move? How do people live? Where do they live? The housing. Where would we get the food from? If people are abandoning farming and then coming to the urban settings, where are we going to get our food from? Are we going to import, or are we going to modernize our agriculture and make it efficient? All these questions. How are we going to power all these urban setting residents? The sewerage system. How is that going to work? When you think of these things based on the mega trends, then you will see, okay, there would be major problems because we are going to this trend. And how am I going to solve this is the question. Then those questions would lead you into, okay, let me leverage AI. How would artificial intelligence play a role in this scenario? Our fertility rate is one of the highest. Right, so there are, and we have a very young population in terms of demography. So how are we going to enhance education quality using artificial intelligence is a question. And how am I going to monetize it? You see the mega trends, you see your country context and market, and then the technologies that are available. How am I going to marry all this and translate it into business is the question. When you do this, and when you have that mental model to actually translate these hypes, AIs and everything, and then marry them into becoming a solution to your current and future problems, then they are no longer hypes. They would actually be infrastructures for you to generate wealth for yourselves and to change people's lives. So that's how I see it. And they, of course, the people at the back of these mega multi-billion-dollar companies like Amazon and others, people have their concerns. They are becoming too powerful. That is monopoly and other things. People
I'm not concerned about the monopoly aspect of things, but When you make laws, I mean, there could be any kind of corruption in any way, shape, or form, but at least what the public understands, or what I understand, is there are people trained to make laws, and there are people who are deliberating on what is beneficial for the society. Not in terms of only wealth creation, and not only in terms of actually prospering the society, but an actual understanding of how the society is moving forward and leading their lives. So these individuals that we're talking about, the tech giants, have an understanding of technology and how technology can bring money or make money using technology. So I don't understand them coming into that sphere of life, or I don't understand these people's involvement. I know the world of politics, or the world of how things are actually functioning, working, is different from what we read about those things or what we hear about those things. But I don't have that comfort of leaving everything for these individuals, because they have money, they can influence everything and anything they want. That's a concern I have.
Yes, I mean, it's a human nature, no? We want to influence lawmakers into making the laws that we want them to make. In some countries, lobbying is legal.
Yeah.
So who gets the best lobbyists? The people who have money.
Yeah.
So regardless of the circumstances on the ground, whoever has the best lobbyists would win. So that is the situation. In other constituencies, whoever has the majority vote will get to decide. You know, the concept of lobbying might not be as legal, or it would be a little bit of a background game, but still money is a form of power, right? So people who have power would always want to maintain that power. This is a human nature, the way I see it. And how you do that is by all means legal. Usually that's what's going to happen. And the lawmaking and everything, that would be a little bit twisted in a way, or it's not always necessarily the way it should be. In most cases it is, but not always. Not everything is perfect. So what are you going to do about it is a question, right? So we are living in a capitalist world, in a capitalist system. So that is a game. That is the rule of the game, and you have to play the game. You have to learn how to play the game. Of course, the lawmakers, people who are in that position at their best possible extent, they should be able to maintain and look for the future, right? So what would the future be like? What do we need to do to really create a stable society and state and develop, and which is fair for everyone? That is a question. And they need to really uphold this in their lawmaking process. Unless otherwise you do that, it's going to be a problem, and at some point there would be lawlessness. So I think the people who have the means, trying to not necessarily skew, but kind of pressure, a little bit play a game with the lawmaking. It's a natural thing. I believe it's going to continue. We have to be honest with that. But what is the role of, as you said, the lawmakers, is to maintain the balance, to maintain the balance, because you also want these people. It's because of them that you and I are now able to have a communication here, and anyone who is interested is able to see this, from anywhere in the world. It's because of these kind of people. Otherwise, we would lose also a lot of things. But there is also something that you have mentioned, in terms of futures and people who have an understanding of technology and everything. I would say they don't always know. They would be at the top of their game at the moment. As you mentioned, someone, for example, might be taken as one of the people who is at the top of, or driving AI technology and everything. But I promise you, his understanding of what the potential of AI would be and what AI would be looking like in 5 years from now, I don't think he would know. Because because none of them, I don't think the person who created and invented internet, people who invented Google, I don't think they had an understanding of what the internet would bring about in the world. I don't think they knew to the full extent that all banking transactions, mobile money, all these things would be possible because of internet. I don't think they saw that coming. Probably they saw some things. They might have an understanding of the potential, but the full extent, I don't think you would know. It's the same thing with M-Pesa in our neighboring country, Kenya, right? So at some point, I read this somewhere. It might not be an actual word of the guy, but someone at the National Central Bank of Kenya said M-Pesa became M-Pesa because we didn't know what was going on and we didn't try to regulate it. And because of that, it was able to materialize its full potential. So sometimes you don't know how people use what you have given them. So I would say they don't have the full grasp either.
Yeah. All right. So I'm liking this. This is amazing. So we're talking about invention, innovation, entrepreneurship. And we're talking about the individuals that are actually pressuring a lot of things in the world of technology, the world of machine learning, artificial intelligence, as technology is there as an umbrella. Which one do you favor? The inventor and the part of innovation, or the entrepreneur?
I would prefer the entrepreneur. Inventions would be inventions, but they mean nothing. Let's say you have a lot of money, but it's in the bank and it's blocked and you don't have access to it. You can't use it. Does it have any meaning to you?
Yeah, it could cause me some
it's
stress.
Only the hope.
It could cause me some stress.
Maybe even it would just refrain you from trying to make more money. You just wait for the day that the banks would release your money and everything. You'd just wait for that day.
I wouldn't consider that money to be my money anyways. All right.
Yeah. So it's literally like that. Or yes, let's say we have a high amount of natural resources, not yet accessed, or refined and used and everything. So what does that bring to us?
Hope is a great thing, man.
Hope, only hope. But those who act on the hope are the entrepreneurs. If we do not have entrepreneurs, it's not necessarily only the business people, but even in the government and other people who have that mindset to create some things and make it sustainable and solve problems and everything. Unless we have those people, the visionary people who are with that kind of mindset, we cannot progress. The water tower of Africa, we are. Unless otherwise we are able to tap into these resources and then translate them to products and services to everyday life to enhance our quality of life, then it means nothing. And that should be in a sustainable model, and it could only be sustainable in a business model, which requires entrepreneurship.
Would you say Nikola Tesla is entrepreneur or inventor?
I would say an inventor.
An inventor. Yeah. So comparing him with Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Who would you say contributed a lot for the betterment of the world? Tesla or Musk?
No, you can invent. You invent some things. I mean, it's literally as resources that are not tapped. It doesn't mean they cannot be tapped.
All right.
You invent something, it's on the shelf. It's waiting for those entrepreneurs. But if you do not have the entrepreneurs to convert that into something really usable today, it's pointless.
All right. Let's come back to Africa and the role we have in all these things. We hear people talking about all kind of things today. You say that we need to leapfrog into actually making these things happening, work towards materializing whatever is technological world or the world of technology giving us. Us means everyone in the world. This includes Africa. Now we have a little bit of infrastructure. We have the understanding, the technology and everything like that of the Western world or the developed world. What is the thinking behind, what do you have? I just want to understand your take of it. Is Africa there to take this opportunity and to move forward? And if yes, can Africa cope up with the rest of the world? Because, yeah, we can talk about infrastructure development in different African countries, but comparing it with the other world, it could be China or the US or Canada or somewhere in Europe, Africa cannot measure up to that. And talking about human development, we're trying. Our human capital is not there yet. And do you really believe that Africans, as people in the African continent, can shoulder whatever is technology bringing us today?
So I would say in terms of human development, I would say we are there.
All right.
We are there. We have the talent. That I have experienced it with a number of encounters, having conversations with fellow African brothers and sisters across, working with young people, dynamic young people and everything. And you look at also other, big technology firms and whatnot, look at there and you'd find amazing, brilliant, Nigerians, South Africans, Ethiopians, Kenyans doing brilliant things there. What we do not have in Africa is not the talent, but the system that taps into this talent. We do not have an infrastructure of system, right? So we need that. And from all these systems, I would say rule of law would come. Rule of law would be one. I may be biased because I also have a law background here. But if you have a fair chance against anything, if you believe that you would be treated fairly, if you believe that you register an IP, and then with that you have a chance, nobody would steal it. If they steal it, they would pay for it. If you have that faith, then you'd try, really, you'd strive, you would make effort to make things happen, as you said, hope, and that reliance on rule of law and the systems that we have, institutions and everything. That's why we often hear from politicians that, systems building, institutional building, that's what we are working on. We hear those things because those things actually really matter, and that is what we need to have. And I believe that is the thing that we are lacking somehow. So, but these things would come again, as you said. They don't come from out of the blue. They would have to be built by educated people, people who have the skills and the exposure and the mindset, and then also genuine interest to build their country and continent and whatnot. So this is, and then collaboration, right? So we need to collaborate and build together. If we do that, of course, we would be able to catch up. And if you see any history of recently developed countries, that moved from low income to middle income kind of countries and everything, including China, right? So we know what kind of power China has gained in the past 30, 40, 50 years. And we also have an understanding of what it took them. Right, so the democracy and everything, that is another that we would leave that for the political analysis. But in terms of entrepreneurship, and systems building, what did they do? We need to ask that, starting from copying things, building what you have. You have to, in an entrepreneurial language, we have this thing that we call competitive advantage. Everybody would have the idea. Everybody would have this and that resource, but what is your competitive advantage? Just as the high altitude we have in Ethiopia is a competitive advantage for our athletes to be really great and amazing in long distance running, entrepreneurially, what is your competitive advantage? What is our competitive advantage in terms of geographical location? What's our competitive advantage in terms of population size, demography of the population? All those things we need to see. That's literally what the Middle East does, right? So Dubai, competitive advantage, location. What do we do? Tax-free for everyone, make it, a business hub. They leveraged on their competitive advantage and identifying that and committing to that with a vision and, of course, determined leadership. That's what you need. If we have those things, if we make those things work, and if there is collaboration, it's not always only the government trying to do that. It's also the people need to be collaborative on that, and there needs to be a collaboration and co-working and contribution from everyone. If we do that, of course, we would. There are countries in Africa that are super strong. Look at Botswana. Where are they now? What did they do? We can learn from that. Mauritius and others, they are at another level. They have they have identified a competitive advantage. Seychelles and all. So their competitive advantage was, okay, we are a small country, not a lot of resources. Let's be tax haven countries. So everybody establishes their businesses there and everything. So that's how you play the game, and then build institution toward it. Then you would catch up, right? So at the end of the day, through technology, entrepreneurship, even politics, what have you, the end goal is having a better life for everybody. Like Mr. X, Miss Y, living a better life tomorrow than today, and living a better world to our offspring. That is the bottom line.
So in actual terms, in actuality, what is our competitive advantage
as a country?
As a country,
we have a lot. Starting from this is the elephant in the room, or the very straightforward answer, so to speak. The fact that we have an untapped culture, right? So we have raw culture as a country, which could provide so much to the rest of the world. This is usually being observed by people who are traveling from other places. When you have your conversation with diaspora Ethiopians, for example, they would tell you, oh, if you bring this to the US, it would sell this amount. To get this kind of thing in the US, I would pay this. And even like, for example, now it's because we luckily here, not affording something is considered luck here in Ethiopia, because we eat organic relatively, because we can't afford, processed food and everything, because that is way too expensive than the not processed one. So those kind of,
the irony.
Exactly, so those kind of competitive advantage, we have them. But we would only be able to know when we expose ourselves to other countries, what they do. We have the demography. We have the geographical location. Tell
me about the geographical location.
We are in the the Horn of Africa, which is basically in the middle of Africa, right? So very close to the Middle East. We have Ethiopian Airlines. We have a lot to be a logistical hub of Africa. We have a tremendous opportunity. And we also have 120-30 million people, growing very, very fast, very young, and being educated as well, very, very well. Recently, quality, that's for debate. But regardless, we have children who are at school. That is an advantage. How do we tap it is a question, right? So we have affordable human resource because of the circumstances. How do we leverage that? That's literally what China did, right? So you hire many people to do very specific tasks, and they would be excellent at that specific task. So the quality of your product would be very competitive. So this kind of leveraging on competitive, we have many. I mean, I could keep going on. But to really understand those, and competitive advantage is about competition. So understanding who are our competitors, what values can we offer to the rest of the world that they do not have. India did that. They had way too many tech graduates and also relatively good English speakers, except the accent and everything. They speak perfect English, so outsource. They did that. The Bangalore and other places, they changed the economy. They are basically developing the whole world's technological systems and everything from India. They did that. Lithuania, Estonia, for example, a very small country. Technology, let's be excellent on technology. They did that. They are now literally leading the world. They are the best country in terms of technology and everything. They leveraged on that. So these are Luxembourg, other places. You can see, okay, they specialize on something and leverage that. So those are the things that we need to look into. I mean, at the end of the day, natural resources, human resources, geographical location, organic culture. We have these things. Yeah,
it's really amazing. I'm really liking this because when you talked about our culture, that is the culture unique to Ethiopia, that can be exported to the rest of the world. It could be in terms of the cuisine that we have, a different one. For example, if you go to the south and try something and coming to the northern part of Ethiopia, it's not the same with that of the south. And what we have in the east is not the same with what is in the west. So we have assortment of varieties everywhere in the country. But when I think about that, there is one thing that crosses my mind that comes to me and makes me think a lot. Selling all this requires to be really communicative. It requires that skill of bringing yourself out and telling it to the other world.
The soft skill, yeah.
The soft skill part of it is something that baffles me all the time. I have this conversation with friends all the time, and we talk about how we are not really good at selling what we have. Even when you have something to give to the rest of the world, when you know that it's really valuable, really, really, really valuable, but you don't know how to tell it to other people about the essence of the thing that you are trying to sell. So it is nothing. People can understand that it's valuable, but unless you make them believe or understand how valuable this thing is, it's just is. It exists. You can use it. But selling it is another thing. For example, you've been mentioning about Kenyans or the other African country. People, brothers from Nigeria could be. A guy from Nigeria or a lady from Nigeria with a little bit of education or a little bit of training in something can sell you anything. Or a guy from Kenya, regardless of the substance of the thing, a guy from Kenya with a bit of educational or training background can sell you anything. But a guy from Ethiopia, let's take him to the periphery of one of the cities or one of the countrysides of Ethiopia and bring him to Addis. This guy has this intuition, this understanding, the experience, the hands-on experience of doing with a thing, or having this experience with whatever thing that he's doing. But selling it is another thing. So I believe that is one challenge that we have, even if we consider that to be a competitive advantage for Ethiopia, but we still have that assignment. How do you think we should go about it?
Yeah, you touched on a very good point, Abraham. Yes, we need to sell it. We need to be able to communicate what we have. That's a very critical skill. And what warms my heart is the newer generation, the younger generation that I'm working with. From time to time, I see that there is a lot of improvement in terms of language proficiency, articulation, and also the self-esteem and confidence to communicate, in front of anyone, an audience. Sometimes you can even see that it goes to naivety and arrogance, even I know, it's good, but yeah, there is also boundary to an extent, but when you see it, when you compare it from my generation and a little beyond that, you can literally see the difference. That change is coming. Absolutely, and it also depends from which culture in Ethiopia you come from. Right, so that's also very critical. So there are cultures where being quiet and being reserved and not saying a lot, even though you have great skills, speaking little of yourself and everything is considered as being humble, and that is actually praised. And people would actually come for you because you didn't say much. And, that guy looks and sounds decent, so I'm going with him. That is what I want. And this guy who is trying to tell me all these things and who has been a bit chatty, I think he's trying to con me. That's the context that we have. So if you come from this kind of cultural context, then you'd be like, oh, that's your way of communicating and showing value. So we have conflicting proverbs, right? So ዝም ባለ አፍ ዝም ባይገባም and ካለመናገር ደጃዝማችነት ይቀራል. So we need to maintain the balance between the two. Right. So that's how I see it. But very, very hopeful and very happy as I see the newer generation becoming really, really great. And for this, technology played a significant role, I would say. And you can see over TikTok and other media platforms, it's the young people who are dominating, and the way they communicate themselves. There could be a lot that needs to be improved and changed, but at least they are saying something. They are trying to sell things. They go out and dare and try to experiment and everything. So it's a very critical point, and as a soft skill, we need to develop it. That is coming, but it has to be in the right way and right direction. And there are a few schools. Very, very few who have been teaching, how both our cultural contexts and also the global exposure as well, availing that global exposure to their students. So a high school student would be absolutely capable of explaining the process of injera making to an external person. It's not about English, it's also about contextualizing your culture in a way that somebody else from another culture understands it. Right? For me and you, because we have the background of the culture, it's easy. I would get it. You tell me a few things and I would connect the dot. But someone who has no clue about your culture, you have to frame it in a way that they understand. So they were able to do that because they were exposed to the other culture as well, and then have a deeper understanding of their own culture, and then have also the language skill. So this would come, and it's coming. You can see it, whether we like it or not. Movies and everything, the popular culture is exposing our children to the culture of the Western world. I mean, I'm a bit sad that we do not have enough exposure to Africa's culture, with the exception of Nigerian movies. We don't have as much access to one another, and unless otherwise we do that, we would still be aliens to our neighbors, Kenya, Rwanda, Djibouti, others. How do we learn about one another's culture, art, and exchange programs and everything? But that would bring us together. At the end of the day, it's globalization. Language plays a critical role, but then context also comes into play, and it's a skill as well. On the spot, how do you understand? How do you read your audience, emotional intelligence, and knowing your time, and being able to think on your feet, on the spot. All these things are skills, and they come through practice. And our education system, I know that it's also changing and being revised from time to time, so that it's the continuous assessment, students-centered learning, and everything. We are on the right direction. I believe that students would be exposed to speaking in public and other things, so all these things would at the end of the day materialize, and that would come.
All right. When you say all those things, especially about the confidence aspect of the things, That reminded me of a guest that came here, and Ethio-American guest, somebody who happens to know Ethiopian culture and grew up in the US. And I asked him a question, and the question was like, what do you appreciate from Ethiopian culture and that of American culture? And I asked them to give me just one example from the US, one example from the Ethiopian culture. And he gave me this answer, and I still have it today. He said, from the US, the confidence of the people. And from Ethiopia, the humility of the people. These are two things that contradict each other. I can understand, he was explaining the whole thing. He was telling me that someone from the US, because they can articulate things, you think they know all the things that they're talking about. But if you happen to see through all the things that they're telling you, you can find flaws. You can find all kind of, logical fallacies or all those things. And he said, when you come back to Ethiopia and see how people interact, how people actually tell you about their experience of life, they have that humility, they have that, I can somehow call it not reflecting of whatever skills they have. So he told me about this thing, and I was thinking, can we change up this thing? Do we have any opportunity to actually work on this and make sure that our people can have that confidence to tell you about things and make you believe that they know the whole thing about that they're telling you about? And another guest came in and sat there and started telling me he's from the US. So he had this experience working in big companies, including the World Bank, UNICEF, Google, and all places. And he said, I want Ethiopians to have that confidence that I can imagine it. I don't care whether it's arrogance or anything like that. So I have this conflicting understanding of the whole process. Do we need to maintain the humility, or do we need to have the confidence and lose the humility? Which one do you think is beneficial?
It depends. There is no right or wrong answer here. It depends on the context. So which context are we operating in? What is the vision that we have? What are we trying to achieve is the question, right? So, we don't necessarily have to go to the US. It's a case in point of what we discussed earlier. Go to South Africa, go to Nigeria. You would know if a South African is in a room full of all other African countries. If there is one South African, you would know. If there is one Nigerian, you would know. You'd tell the difference. Because that's their cultural context. They express themselves. It's free. Everybody feels free. Everybody laughs. They laugh loud. They speak loud. It's not arrogance, but that's how their culture is. It's the way they communicate. And in the US as well. Starting from how you raise your children. It's a practice, right? So if our system, in a way, starting from the family to school and then in a society setting and everything, if something came to my mind.
Right.
The South African, we laugh at the South African parliament, right? So every time everybody expressing something, doing something, it does, in their context, it's okay. It's normal. Can you imagine that kind of order in Ethiopia?
Nah,
really. It's not. It's unthinkable.
That's
right?
chaos,
it's
man.
Chaos.
That's chaos.
So how would you be able, to compete with someone from that kind of cultural context in communicating yourself or expressing your idea? It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. But what I say is, whenever you get the chance, make the best out of it. Make the best out of it. Usually this is what I tell to my fellow entrepreneurs and young people. I also have a privilege of mentoring a few of them. And whenever they say, okay, now we have this international exposure, what do we do? It's not only about myself, it's also about Ethiopia. So how do I represent my country as well? I want to have the flag and the dresses and everything. And you every time they mention this, what I tell them is, be the best that you can be and make the best of each moment. That's how you represent your country. It's not the flag, it's not what you have dressed on and everything, but if you present your best self at every possible opportunity that you have, the perception of the rest of the world would be towards that. Now, Ethiopians, they are like this. If we are all shy and quiet, people would be like, oh, Ethiopians are quiet. But we get chances. We get opportunities. And there is also a context. It's a cultural context, by the way. High context culture and low context culture. So the high context cultural communication is each word, each expression means a lot. You give a small thing and people would understand a lot. So you can take the US, you can take German and everything. They don't give you details. They give you a few things and you have to understand. So not a lot of context that they give you because their culture is full of concepts. Come to Ethiopia because of our cultural context and go to Japan and the like. Because of our cultural communication and our cultural context, not right or wrong. For every communication, we have the beginning, the middle, and the end. If you are on a phone call with a German guy or with an American, you don't say like, oh, how are you? How's family and everything? And then also you go and then you talk about a lot of things. No. Oh, hi, man. Is that thing? I'm calling for these things. Like XYZ. Do you have it? No. Okay, bye. Done. That's how it is. But it's not being arrogant or it's not being rude, but it's because of the cultural context. With Ethiopia, if you try to do that, what do people think? Be like, he didn't even say hi. He only wants me for his business.
Yeah.
That is the context we get. So you have to say, hi, how are you? It's been a while, all these things. So it's a cultural context. It doesn't mean, because in our context, human beings and relationships come first. And if you are not respecting that, then business is not going to be done. So I see a lot of people coming from those contexts and into Ethiopia and being frustrated because they directly want to go to doing business, as we the slang says, to the geddelo, right? So go to the geddelo. No, it's not going to work like that in Ethiopia. I have to first like you as a human being. I have to know you. I have to know you. It's after that I do things for you. Once I know you as a human being, once I like you as a human being, then I trust you. And I give you, that's how Mercato operates. I give you millions and millions of birr without any kind of paper trail or any kind of contractual agreement and other things. Because you bank on your social capital, you do that. But the minute you introduce a system or an instrument that has been developed for a different culture, because I don't have to know you to do business with you. I just need to know that I trust you. I just need to know that if you betray me or if you do not maintain your word, I can take you to court. And for that, I need an evidence. That's all I need to know. I make you sign. Try to do business in that fashion in Ethiopia. Ask someone to sign somewhere before knowing them, before allowing them to know you. The business deal wouldn't go through. So understanding culture is very, very important when it comes to communication. And what do we want to do as Ethiopians? This is a cultural context that we have. And when we go out, because we now have opened our doors to the international world, we are exposing ourselves to international worlds. What are we supposed to do now? We need to have an understanding of this context and be able to learn about other cultures and also teach others about our culture. You cannot do business in the way you do business here in Ethiopia, going in Germany or other places. So how do we do that? First, we can also start doing business with people who have similar culture with us. Why don't we explore that? restart from there. That could be something, in some cultures you have to sit for a drink and socialize, and then business will be done. That is closer kind of culture to ours, right? So you have to build rapport first. So that is the kind of thing that we have, and it has its own advantage. It has served a lot of purpose. Nobody dares to betray someone in Mercato, because they know like everybody else would gang up against them and then bankrupt them. If you lose your trust in social capital, then you're out of business. Nobody wants to do business with you.
Yeah.
That is, take them to court. It would be their happy day. Like, 7 years it's gonna take in the court system. By then I'll be done. Okay? Good luck with that. Go through the people that they respect and they know. You get things done. So it has its own advantage, but we need to, whether we like it or not, we're not in a landlocked and closed community any longer. So we need to expose ourselves and teach ourselves on how to communicate. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. It's something is lacking. Humility in Ethiopia doesn't mean we are lacking something. But that is how you have to be to operate in this ecosystem. That's what it means. That is the only thing. If you go to the US, that's not the right kind of approach. That's not the culture. So because of their culture, starting from their upbringing, parents negotiate with their children. Nobody dares to just tell their kid to do something and without hearing them or anything. The kids would speak loud, against. We even see it in stand-up comedies, right? So the black American parents and white American parents, how they raise their kids and everything, so we see it in stand-up comedies in a form of satirical social critic. So it's the same thing here in Ethiopia as well. We are being raised to be able to function in the society and culture that we have built and we have known for centuries. And we have not been very much open and exposing ourselves to. It's not only a lack of means. I mean, even in-country travel and exposure, right? So that's also very limited. How many of us really? Let me go and explore the culture of Tigray. I've been born and raised in Addis. Let me go do that. Let me go to Oromia. Let me go to Somalia, in Somalia and everything. We don't do that. To explore the culture, to learn about the people, how they interact. We don't have that, right? So if that is the case, then we are limited. But now we are opening up. The world demands that we need to prepare ourselves step by step. Rome was not built overnight. Ethiopia and our soft skills, communication skills, it's not going to be built overnight. We have to start and be mindful of introducing these kind of elements in the curriculum, work on our children, allow them to express themselves, but also be mindful of their culture and be respectful and humble, be able to read the room and then be able to act accordingly. That is what we need to give them. And the most precious gift anyone could give the youth and the young is to explore and to feel safe to explore and learn on themselves. So this is how I believe we would be able to bridge the gap. Yeah.
All right. With that, when you keep telling me about this thing, I was thinking, yeah, those are really valid points. But look at our ancestors. Look how we function as a society. Look how we practice religion, different religions. We kind of seem to be vocal. Like we have that understanding of wit. We have that grasp of being articulate and telling people the right thing in the right amount of words. It is only when we are engaged in this kind of high level things, crossing the border of Ethiopia and connecting with other countries, that we face this kind of problem. I mean, if you ask me about having a conversation with people, for example, I can tell you about my interaction with young people that are in different villages, not go and talk to them about some issue. They will give you a lot about the area, the thing. The analysis is beyond measures. It's big. The wheat is there, the fun, the humor, everything is there. So I don't see it as a problem within the culture. We have that understanding. I know the limitations. For example, in some households, kids may not be allowed to talk when their parents or someone in the family, it could be siblings or others are talking, they may not be allowed to talk. I know that exception. I really understand. But we're not that. I believe we're not that. Have that interaction in the place that you mentioned earlier. Go to Mercato. Have a conversation about something with a person from Mercato. Or go to some other place. For example, it could be in the other part of the country. Go to Bahar Dar or go to Shashamane. Have a conversation with someone. They will tell you and you'll be impressed. You'll be really amazed. I mean, how they're constructing whatever they have and how smart they are. But these people coming to the other part of the world and trying to present themselves, trying to present whatever projects they have, because we're talking about entrepreneurship, innovation. It's not an engagement or an endeavor of a single country or something that you innovate here, you create in Ethiopia is not supposed to remain in Ethiopia, because for it to gain traction or for it to be impactful, it needs to be sold out. Then we expect a lot of things to come out of that. So I'm talking about that experience of having that interaction within the country. We're amazing. Have you ever heard a sermon in a church, or it could be in a mosque, how people talk, how people say things, how people are persuasive? They're amazing. But try replicating that thing into the business world. We don't have it at all. That's the problem I have. I need a reflection on that. And I want you to say something about what is happening in Ethiopia with ratification, or now everything is done with the startup proclamation. And I want to have that conversation about the startup proclamation and the impact that it has in the ecosystem. First, I want your reflection on the first thing.
Very, very a nice point, Abraham. So let's dissect the elements, right? So the example that you gave, really beautiful. Be it sermon in a church or in a mosque or wherever. It could be, Kolo Tamaris or all these people, in the madrasa or so. The Kane people, the way they create these poems really with wax and gold mixed and everything at the moment on the spot. As you said, we have the wheat. Go to Mercato or go to any roadside, sit with a couple of kids in the village who are playing and talk to them. They give you that. But where are you? You are in their domain. You didn't take them out of their cultural context. They are still operating in their cultural context. You are the outsider going there. And when you come into those elite people, this is also one of the challenges in some parts of our country. The context is we are very patriarchic in a way. Our education system, religion, and everything. Those who are supposed to be the people who know, the enlightened ones, they are the ones who speak with that confidence. How about everybody else? Look at the audience. Everybody is quiet. Nobody asks question usually. Everybody is saying yes. That is not communication. And we are talking about communication here. If you're not communicating, you don't process the information that's given to you. And that is a problem. And the minute you think somebody, and this patriarchic structure makes you what? Someone who raises their voice, like someone who is on a sermon and preaching and stuff like that. If they raise their voice, if they speak with such a powerful tone and authority, what do? Automatically, your default is submit. Right? Unless you submit and you listen, you don't process, you don't interrogate, you don't, communicate with them. When you are exposed to someone who comes from a very communicative culture, every time they speak very loud. Every time they speak powerfully and with authority, regardless of the topic and their authority, actual authority on the topic. What is your default? What have you been trained to be? How are you trained to react to that kind of tone and presence? You submit. And you feel like, everybody is authoritative. Everybody knows, what they are doing. That is embedded in your subconscious, because you go home as a child, your father tells you something, that's it. You don't, because that is very, there is no question and answer back and forth with your parents or elders, right? So that is the thing, right? So if you come from this context, that is the subconscious. And unless otherwise, you feel you are the master, not only the master, the grand master of a subject matter, and everybody else is an audience, then you would be a bit insecure in that situation.
A laughing stock.
And yes, and another element is, like it comes with a question. So you would feel very confident because your presentation. Let's say you are a startup founder, got a chance to pitch. You know the ins and outs of your business, and you are pitching. You finished. When they bombard you with questions, because you're not used, because you have presented, you're not used to or exposed to being asked when you are authoritative. That's why if you ask questions, sometimes your teachers would be angry. Not every teacher loves the smart kid, right? Asking questions. So
not really.
So if you're asked, you're not ready to be asked and to explore. You're not ready to say like, I don't know. Because you present yourself as a grandmaster, you have to know everything. And what does a question do to you? It makes you, it exposes you. There are parts that you don't know. So that makes you insecure. So these are all these elements and contexts that we need to work on, that, it's okay to not know. It's okay to express only the things that you know. And nobody knows everything. So that is a mindset and confidence that we need to build in our younger generation, by allowing them to feel safe and express themselves and fail and learn and know that anything could happen. And that's how you change them. But as you said, it's a skill. It's a matter of practice, and the more you practice it, it becomes a part of you and your DNA. And that's how I see it. That's my take on the point that you mentioned. When we go to the Startup Act, right? So the Startup Proclamation has just been ratified. I mean, I could never be happier for that, and it means a lot, honestly speaking, because it has been expected. At least it gives you a chance to fight. No, I'm not naive. I'm not expecting that it would change everything overnight. I'm not expecting that it would be there for everybody. It's not for everybody. That needs to be very, very clear, by the way. The Startup Proclamation is for startups. And who is a startup? There is a definition, but beyond the definition, there is also a process to be designated as a startup. And if you're not designated by the right organ as a startup, you wouldn't benefit from all the perks that the Startup Proclamation has availed to you. So business as usual will continue. And I have been saying this, and I will always say it. The actual entrepreneurs, the real ones, whether there is a Startup Proclamation or no proclamation, they would still make it. They would still fight. It would take them longer, yes. It would take them a lot of resources, yes. but still they would make it. And what we are trying to do as a country, I see it significantly important because it's being unique and different, and thinking crazy thing is no longer, for a lack of a better word, let me say, it's no longer a taboo. You are allowed to do that, and there is a framework, a legal framework, a policy, and then a proclamation to support you, to actually help you cultivate that crazy idea, which is ridiculed by everybody else, but would be, cultivated by this proclamation and policy, and even invested on and everything. So this is a huge, huge statement, a major statement. That's how I see it. But again, it doesn't mean everything would be smooth. It's not going to be smooth, and it doesn't mean it's for everybody. It's not for everybody. It's for those that are designated. But the message, very, very powerful. As a country, embracing this, very, very, very powerful. And it's not, we do not have a very long history of, being, if we look at the recent centuries, 300-400 years, if you look our history, it's mostly full of war and, not necessarily doing business and being innovative and building things, doing crafts and everything. It's not necessarily like that. So this kind of gesture and go ahead from a government structure or from a hierarchy that everybody looks up to is very, very wonderful and very encouraging. And also it sends the right signal to the rest of the world as well. It affirms that we are on the right track, and we mean business, and we want business, because there are parts in the draft proclamation that I have reviewed. I saw that there are also rooms for international startups to come and establish themselves here. There are rooms for an Ethiopian startup to have, higher international talent without, lengthy process and everything. If you are a startup, you are allowed to do that. If you are a startup designated as a startup, you would be allowed to have free flow of money and be able to import, capitals and goods and products that you need for your startup without having necessarily to go through other agents and everything. So it gives you room to operate in a relatively a safe environment, but with a close look, of course. It means that the country is investing a lot in these startups, because we believe a couple of them would be able to change a lot of things. They would bring about systemic change, honestly, right? So for let's say taxi hailing apps and everything, all these, we know what kind of change they brought about. So this kind of change in every and how many jobs that they have created and everything, we have seen, we have experienced that. So that is what it means. Whenever we give tax holiday to a startup, it's banking and investing in their future job creation opportunity. That is what we are trying to do. But we are also mindful that startups, they die. And out of 100 startups, maybe 2-3% would succeed, maybe. And from those 2-3% that would succeed, probably 1% from the 3%, 1% probably would be disruptive in the nature and grow really, really big. Which means it's a very, very slim chance. If you see it from the 100, it means a 0.001%, which would chance for a startup to be disruptive and huge and mega and go beyond borders. But that one would be worth a while. It would, make up for everything that you have invested, and it would give you ample wells also for the coming, 100, 200 startups even to invest on those. And in the process, creating infinite jobs, changing lives, elevating our collective living standards to the better. So that is all the hope that I see through the startup proclamation, but I'm also pragmatic in the way that it would be it's not going to be a silver bullet. There is a lot that is expected from the young people, from the startups themselves, and then also from the ecosystem builders. There is a lot that is expected from us, and I think particularly with ecosystem builders, I would say now the time has come. Like we have been asking for a policy change to be recognized as startups and startup ecosystem builders. Now that that is in effect, then it's time for us to deliver. Like where are your unicorns? Where are your startups? The questions will come. And are we ready for that is my question. Are we ready for that? Both technically, in terms of capacity and everything to do what it takes. Do we have that is my question. So it's time for us to look back and do some housekeeping and level up our game and whatnot. So this is how I see it.
All right. I actually can see how in love you are with the whole thing. So let me ask you this question about the same issue. What kind of environment do you expect to be unfolded, to be actually facilitated by the government or any concerned body for these startups to thrive? What is the setting that you see in the future where the startups that we have in Ethiopia or that are coming up will thrive? What kind of setups or settings should be there, do you think?
Yes, I believe, execution is very critical.
All right.
So the policy, perfect. I have seen it. The proclamation, it has responded to and addressed a number of questions. Pretty much most of the questions that the startup community has been asking for years. So a proper execution and implementation of that is what would be needed. And in terms of that, let's say, so for example, if there is a designation process, then the designation, because it's a volume game as we speak, right? So it's a volume game and it's a global thing, not necessarily for Ethiopia only, but in the rest of the world as well. You take as many as possible, right? So resource based on resources you have and everything, and try to select in a smart way, and then you invest and you guide them. And there is also one thing that I believe it could be a controversial point here, and I would be happy to have a back and forth with you on this point, but if you see international research and experiences and everything, successful startup founders are about, age 40, 35 and above, so between 35 and 45, they are at that age usually. And the way we are propagating startups here in Ethiopia is almost as a job creation opportunity for them, which is not. It's a misconception to my understanding. Startups would create infinite jobs for young people, no question. But it doesn't mean all young people can create and lead startups, because in nature, with a very simple definition of startup, very simple, is an experimental business.
Right.
And a young person, would they have the experience, the money, the network, and other elements that allows them to experiment in the right way is the question. And if they do not have that, how do we enable them? We cannot work without them. I'm not saying let's eliminate them or anything, but let's have, if we have like a 40-year-old or a 45-year-old person who creates a very feasible startup, they would create thousands and hundreds of thousands of jobs. That's where we should go. That's how the job creation and youth come in play for me when I think of startup. So who creates startups? Who should be startup founder? We need to be a little bit critical about that, and we need to have, I think, accelerators and incubators also who are beyond, let's call it ageism. In a way, we need to support our young people, no questions there. It's not even up for debating. But we need to be systematic about it. So let's leverage our competitive advantage again here. So who are those who are relatively ready to build startups, successful startups, not just start and fail and everything, who have that stamina, the network, a little bit of money, the knowledge, and also the level of maturity, right? So it's not about your age, but age has its own factor. There is a reason why those startups would come. What we see is, as an example, usually what we see globally and everything, even in Ethiopia, is the very few exceptions. The very few exceptions who dropped out from university. But how was their background? What did they have and everything? That's a question. We should look into the majority as well. And also the not so mega businesses and startups, but those that have actually made significant changes, but are not very much sung for. We need also to look into that and prepare ourselves accordingly. If we do this, there is going to be a lot of change, and these kind of preparations would help us. And another thing that I would say we need to do is for the ecosystem builders, again, like how do we build our own models in a way. We cannot, it doesn't mean what works in Silicon Valley works here.
Yeah, right.
But how do we learn? How do we capture and filter the lessons that we have learned from the past and from our experiences so far, and how do we develop something that would fit our context, and how do we keep on learning? Because the ecosystem builders would be the constants. The startups, they would come, they would either die or grow, and then they move on. The ecosystem builders who are working on next generation startups, they would be the constants. Yeah. So they should take on the role of also learning and understanding the ecosystem, and supporting the government as well in terms of directing the policies. Okay, yes, that was working. Now we need to add this, we need to take out this, providing data-based actual inputs. That is also a role. And of course, from the government side, I don't think we need to go into that. We need to actually be able to listen to the ecosystem builders, yes, and execute what we have. The policy is great, as I said, not perfect. There is no silver bullet anywhere, but it's going to create change, and everybody playing their role would make it really work very well. Yeah.
I can see that this is something that you could talk about the whole day, the whole night, and with a smile on your face and be happy about the whole thing. But I have another thing for you to be really excited about. As a person who went to law school first and came out and went to journalism school, among other schools, you have degrees after degrees, masters after masters, a lot of them. But we have something in common. Graduate school, we went to the same school and we studied journalism and communication. And for the first, the other degree is the law degree that we have in common. For me, per se, I would say I would still love journalism. I would still love doing this thing. Whether or not I have this chance to go to journalism school or not. But for you, is there any perk or is there anything that you think added some kind of value to your life? It could be career-wise, it could be in terms of understanding the world or understanding doing business or something like that. Because you went to law school and again the School of Journalism, is there any additional thing that you got?
In terms of what I want to do in the future, or
not really. I mean, it's been around now. Graduate school, it's been around 8 or more than that years, 10 years or something like that. So you've seen the fruits. You've seen through coming through the process and seeing all the things that you're saying and leading different projects and being in the role of leadership in different companies. You have this opportunity to witness what you have accomplished so far. So did those schools have a contribution to wherever you are today?
Of course, absolutely. I mean, starting from law school and also the smaller workshops, 2 days, 1 day workshop and everything, they would have contribution. I can tell you practically 1, 2, 3. I still use the Socratic method, like that we took in freshman law school, the Socratic dialogue and everything, all that. I still use that whenever I do my coaching sessions or mentoring sessions. I ask questions so that they can the young people or the entrepreneurs that I coach would have expanded their perspectives. It has to come from them, not from me. So I use that. I use analogies and I cross-examination and everything, all those things. It's a way of thinking. It gives you a framework that you can apply in different scenarios. Also from my business law classes and whatnot, international business law and whatnot, I still use them. I still use my contract law school courses whenever I review term sheets with investors and whenever I advise entrepreneurs on how to negotiate and what to be really careful about in a term sheet and everything when they are negotiating for business deals and whatnot. So absolutely. And you go to journalism and communication school, you learn how to articulate things, you learn how to ask questions, you learn how to read between lines. So that would come in handy in multiple places. No question there. And also I have also been able to use that in a way of articulating and communicating what we do, how we do it in social media and other places as well. I've been very happy and lucky and being very engaged with our communications teams as well, in different scenarios, and I see our communication teams locally and internationally. They'd be like, Brook, have you done some communications before and everything? I was able to, for when I work in an international organization, we would have an international team, and they wouldn't necessarily have the full context and understanding of the culture here. So I would give them, but they are also expected to have an article or a communications material to be disseminated at once that would fit for everyone. So in these times, I would add value. I ask questions, guide them, communicate with them in the language that they understand, catch them in the process before it's too late, because I have an understanding of how the workflow is. So this comes in very handy and very helpful. It might seem minor, but there is nothing minor. Every detail matters. Then you go to impact entrepreneurship. Yes, how do you become? When I did my MBA, then how do you be responsible in the business that you do? How do you be mindful, really to create value and to solve problems to the community? How do you fall in love with the problem than the solution? If you are fixated in the solution, then you're not going to make any difference. But if you see a problem and if your commitment is to solving the problem, then you would be exploring multiple solutions, not just one solution. Your horizon would be wide. You would be able to partner with others. But if it is about your solution, you would hear about, I'm not sharing my idea, and you would be stealing it, that mindset. But if you are about solving a problem, then you would be open to learn and everything. So that I've learned it from there. Created a number of also networks in the program I did at a school in France as well, the Sustainable Leadership in Africa. So that has exposed me to a number of really high level, global world leading companies and business leaders and whatnot, how do they lead their business? How do they do and they develop their next products? How do they see the market? How do they analyze that? And also, how do you maintain the balance between people, planet, and profit? The three things. You have to make profit to sustain your business. You have to be able to take care of your people, both in the organization and also in the community. You also are responsible to the planet, climate, in other words. So how do you maintain balance between these three? Usually one would overweigh, right? So how do you do that? From experience and other things, I have been privileged to have access to those kind of exposures. And of course, needless to say, these are the things that I am applying to my day-to-day work.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. So the reason I asked you that question is I just want to frame my next question, and I want to gauge whether or not you value those things, the process that you came through and the achievements that you have. Are you familiar with a word or this term, universal basic income?
universal basic. No,
You're not.
enlighten me, please.
All right. So I've been hearing about this thing. Like every time I read, I've been reading about it these days in different journals and in different podcasts. They talk about it a lot. The tech giants that we were talking about earlier, the likes of us, the Elon Musk and the other people that are working for big technology companies, they keep bringing this issue of universal basic income. It is actually a concept about when artificial generative or intelligence, or AGI, comes to be a reality for the world. And if every job opportunity is taken by the machines and humans are to be idle, there is this concept of universal basic income where the human beings will be paid some amount of money. They will enjoy themselves. They will have all the free time in the world to do whatever they like. That's the whole concept of universal basic income. Some claim that it will happen in the next 10 years or something like that, or some others claim that it will happen in the next 20 years. They have different analysis about the whole concept of it. So the reason I'm trying to ask you about universal basic income and the concept of it is you've gone through the whole process of studying law, going to finance school, going to journalism school. You've done all these things. So these giants, if they have this impact in the world, and if they have this dominance in every sphere of life, if they're about to pay you the money to enjoy yourself, and there will be robots or other kind of machines to help you with your life, you don't need any kind of education, or you don't need any kind of struggle to go through the whole process of understanding finance, economics, journalism, law. Everything will be done by the machines. Everything will be done by these machines that are conscious or thinking like human beings. So what I'm trying to say, and the reason I'm bringing this issue of universal basic income and relating it to your experience of going through the whole process of understanding or studying all these things is, do you really believe in the coming world of everything being possible, your struggling in the past is worth it?
So to begin with, I don't think that day would come.
All right.
And if that day comes, then we wouldn't need money. I mean, money is something that is a value denominator, right? So, your value is X amount. So to show that value, we use money as a currency. It is about value. When you are hired and your salary is 10,000 birr, it means your employer is getting a value of 10,000 birr out of you. That is not necessarily, so to speak, but that is the concept. And if you're not contributing to the world and to the functioning of society, why would you need money? Like, you don't need to bargain, you don't need, and those who have more money, it means they have more value or they are contributing more to the community. Not always, but that is how it is viewed, right? So because we are living in a capitalist world. So yeah, because currency represents value, then if we are not contributing and functioning in the society, in the economy, then there is no need to represent any kind of value because everything would be provided by the machines or the robots or what have you. So in that case, we just sit around and consume. That's going to be the issue. But there is also another experiment that somebody did. I'm not sure what the name is, but the experiment was about it was done over rats, rodents. And what he did was he put together rodents in a very perfect scenario, and food is available. They are very comfortable, but in a confined territory. Everything for their survival that they need is always given. And when this happens, the natural thing for rodents is to reproduce, right? Food is abundant, shelter is abundant. You don't have someone attacking you, so you just reproduce. That's what happens. So that they did that, but at some point they over reproduced and started killing one another, and then finally they got instinct. Not because only they killed one another, but because also they went into being infertile and everything. Nature by itself created that, and it was proven time and time again. So with that experiment, you can see perfect case scenario is not always perfect. So for that reason, if we get to that level, I believe we would even endanger our species, ourselves, right? So we would probably even go to be extinct. So that is what I see. We would be extinct. Yeah.
Artificial General Intelligence or something like that, AGI. This is a concept these days I'm thinking about and trying to imagine the world where nobody is actually producing anything or working. Machines going around doing all kind of crazy things and producing whatever we have to eat and things of that nature. But it's kind of a sci-fi movie life. I sometimes think, because I was exposed to the movies a lot in that way, I sometimes think, is this thing happening? And you said it would not happen.
Yeah.
With the crazy things happening in the world.
Yeah, capitalism doesn't survive in that kind of situation.
No,
right?
capitalism.
It's not going to thrive.
The whole concept of capitalism is being challenged today. So I don't see a world where any system of maybe economic system or political system or ideology, it's like one empire starts and declines, another empire comes and declines. It is kind of cycle. Whether you can call it a vicious or whatever, I don't know, but it's kind of a cycle. So I think it's based to be suspicious that this thing may materialize, this thing may come and take over, but not in a full sense. Not like I have to abandon everything I'm doing today because tomorrow there is AGI, artificial general intelligence, taking over the world and the leadership of the world in the way that we are thinking about it today is not going to happen forever. That's not going to work. But being cautious about it,
yeah, I mean,
everything is all right.
Yeah, I can tell you this though. Just like when we were introduced to personal computers, right? When computers come, they become a thing of household item. Everybody started to have laptops and everything. We no longer needed a typewriter. We no longer needed to study secretarial science at a college. Just like that.
There is no secretarial science?
Not anymore.
Right.
Not anymore. At
right.
school and everything. We used to have it at commerce college, right? So
obsolete.
All these things,
All
but
right.
not anymore because everybody now it's perceived that everyone has to handle those kind of tasks and by themselves. Of course, you'd have personal assistants and everything when your daily activities and role is at that kind of level. But it's not mandatory for all offices anymore. So when you see this, it tells you something. The fact that mobile phone is now accessible, it killed telecenter businesses. These kind of things would change. So it would be disruptive. Of course, it would be disruptive. There would be the professions that wouldn't be anymore needed. For your surprise, law is one. Lawyers, they would not be needed as they were needed before anymore.
I mean, we're talking about the all professions in the world.
But so this is that what you are talking about and what you told me is for the further future. It may not be like that. But the near future, I can tell you, law practice, it's no longer as important as it used to be. It's not gonna be, because the artificial intelligence would have much more efficiency and accuracy in identifying which law and which article and which framework is going to be relevant to your case. And they would be able to develop a case based on your scenario much better than a lawyer would do. And they would charge very, very small. Those kind of practices would be, they need to cope up. They need to find something else. It doesn't mean they would no longer be needed, but it would be a completely different context. Education and others, that would be different. So this is what I believe.
So you're supporting my idea that AGI will be taking over?
There would be changes, but there would never be a takeover anytime soon. Not in the near future, not in 200 years.
Who would prohibit that from happening?
The world system that we are in. It's not allowing that. It's not facilitating to that direction.
Were you thinking about ChatGPT 3 years back? During, for example, during COVID-19, did you have any idea that you would write a whole essay or a whole article about something just by telling the machine? I mean, do you think you would be able to give a machine your idea and command it to write a whole article about a specific concept before 3 years ago, maybe?
No, I mean, there are absolutely things that the way that technology is evolving and changing is absolutely radical. Our comprehension is not catching up. We're not. It's going beyond. It's going beyond, and that's also why we say the best skill currently with the modern world is to unlearn and learn quick. Because things change so fast, you need to be able to cope up and catch up as fast as possible. That's how you survive. It's not only technological; it's also political, right? So and it's a world. We are talking about a new world order.
We're talking about those people, the technology guys, taking over politics. They're manipulating everything. If it is not going the way they want it, they sabotage anything and everything. So that's why I'm telling you this thing.
They are not doing anything that's not monitored.
Really?
Yeah, because in terms of powerful technology, I mean, what we are saying is they are being powerful. So in terms, if it is about only power, then I don't think there is anything as powerful as nuclear. And those who have nuclear even are not trying to do that.
I mean, what insurance, what guarantee do you have that one of the most powerful countries in the world, it could be China or the US, is not going to have a leader as a leader of a country who's also owning a tech company? We don't have any guarantee. This guy will have both the power to have the nuclear arsenal at his fingertip, and at the same time, the tech advantages there as a leverage. So these people can have that. I mean, history tells us this kind of things happening in different times. We don't have any kind of guarantee that these people, for example, in the US, you've seen what Elon Musk has been doing.
What are you going to do about it is a question.
That's it.
What are we going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Okay, you have this information. You feel like, okay, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Maybe in 10 years, 20 years, while we are still alive and young and everything. But what are you going to do about it?
Cope up, evolve.
How? Because everything is being catered for you.
Yeah. Maybe pray.
How are you going to cope up? Cope up with what? I mean, we need some. This is another philosophical conversation, of course, and I'm enjoying it.
All right.
And it's not. It doesn't necessarily have a lot to do with entrepreneurship, but we need purpose, sense of purpose, and importance and contribution, right? As a human being, to feel alive. We're not here just to consume. I believe in
absolutely.
So if you're just sitting and consuming, you'd end up being depressed and incompetent, and actually your health and everything would also deteriorate. Right?
Absolutely.
So there was this research that was conducted in selected few countries, part of Japan, a part of Cuba, and then Greece or so. And the study was the people, communities in these specific areas where their life expectancy was well above average compared to the rest of the world, even with those that are doing very, very well and with very good health care and everything. So most people there are and not necessarily most people, but they have many people close to 100 and beyond even 100. So what the research was trying to identify was, what is the secret ingredient? How is these people and these communities having this kind of longevity? And finally, what they identified was Cuba, yes, but the foods that they eat, the cuisine and everything, all of them very different. Very, very different. It's not the same. So it's not only contributed to food, but they usually eat healthy food.
All right.
That's one, healthy eating. They also have sense of purpose until the last moment.
All right.
They never retire. Like they either have a garden that they really, really are invested in and everything. Whenever they wake up, there is something that they do. They just sit around. That was a very critical element as well. And they have an active life as well. So if sense of purpose and contribution is even associated with our longevity, then not being able to have that and being denied of that and just sit and eat, I think that would be a disaster and a recipe for our extinction.
I
share.
Do you want
to bet on this?
I share your sentiment and the understanding towards the thing, but these days I'm skeptical about a lot of things, including most of the sci-fi movies that I watch. I'm like, when is this going to happen? I don't watch these movies like something that can only imagine. So
you watched Contagion and then COVID-19 happened.
Surrender, man. I don't like conspiracy theory. It's my upbringing. My nature is very far from it. But everything happening in the world today makes you really suspicious that this thing can happen. Okay. So
anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
It's been a very wonderful conversation. I enjoyed the whole conversation, and I'm really glad that we happened to rekindle this spirit of debating about issues and talking about different topics. And I am really grateful that you make the time to come here and share this wisdom and impart the experience that you have. Thank you so much for coming, Brook.
Thank you very much, Abraham, for inviting me. It was a pleasure. Great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.